Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha, Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha, Prahlad Nrsimha, Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Subhadramai, Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठकीम्. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 21, Dhritarashtra quits home. pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase. pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase. Mataji. pitṛ-bhrātṛ-suhṛt-putrā hatās vigatam vayam ātmā jarayā grastaḥ para-geham upāsase pitri father, bhratri brother, suhṛt well-wishers, putrāḥ sons, hatāḥ all dead, te yours, vigatam expended, vayam age, ātmā the body, cha also, jarayā by invalidity, grastaḥ overcome, para-geham another's home, upāsase you do live. Translation by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Your father, brother, well-wishers and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you are living in the home of another. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The king is reminded of his precarious condition, influenced by cruel time and by his past experience. He should have been more intelligent to see what was going to happen in his own life. His father Vicitravīrya died long ago when he and his younger brothers were all little children, and it was due to the care and kindness of Bhīṣmadeva that they were properly brought up. Then again, his brother Pāṇḍu died also. Then, in the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, his 100 sons and his grandsons all died, along with all other well-wishers like Bhīṣmadeva, Droṇācārya, Karṇa, and many other kings and friends. So, he had lost all men and money, and now he was living at the mercy of his nephew, whom he had put into troubles of various types. And despite of all these reverses, he thought that he would prolong his life more and more. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. This is going to be today's theme, focus of what we discuss. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. Kindly repeat. Everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. Thank you. One has to execute his duty faithfully, depending for the result on the supreme authority. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state, and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord. One should, therefore, seek the protection of the Supreme Lord, for the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. He has warned of his precarious conditions more and more by the following words. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Purane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashati Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langete Girim Yukapatama Vande Shikram Nintanam Pramandamadvam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So dear devotees, welcome to today's festival of transcendental words of Srimad Bhagavatam. Transcendental words which carry so much power and potency because of emanating from the innermost recesses of our dearmost and beloved Srila Prabhupada's heart. Srila Prabhupada used to calls them his devotional ecstasies. So, looking at the translation again. Your father, brother, well-wishers and sons are all dead and passed away. Whose father, brother, well-wishers? Dhritarashtra. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you are living in the home of another. Who is speaking this? Nice. So, brothers, friends, sons, all of them, Srila Prabhupada terms them as fallible soldiers. Why fallible? Because they give a false sense of security, well-being and confidence. So, here although Dhritarashtra could see Lord Shri Krishna personally face to face and hear his words also, yet he chose not to act upon them. Why? In Bhagavad Gita, there is a very clear statement in one verse by Shri Krishna, where he states in 2nd chapter 44th verse, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya paharita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau na vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to your Supreme Lord Shri Krishna does not take place. So, somebody might say, this happened 5,000 years ago. And in this case, Dhritarashtra, we all know, was very inimical to his own nephews, the Pandavas, the sons, dear sons of his own dear brother, late brother, who were just like his own sons, who had no fault, who were pure devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, who were well-wishers of everybody, and yet in every way he tried to cause harm to them and even tried to kill them. So somebody might say, he was such a mean person, bad person, so that's kind of understandable. But these days, we are not like that. We come from good families. We are not bad, we are not mean, we mean well for others. But we do take care of ourselves. So let's look at a case in point. This happened just a few years ago down South India in a supposed Brahminical family, modern Brahminical family, Brahma Bandhus. They were Brahminical in this sense that they don't indulge in any of the bad activities. I'm talking about a father and two sons living in their nice house. Father worked very hard his whole life, got a big house constructed. He had his two sons and they're living well. They don't eat non-vegetarian food stuff. They might indulge in a bit of tea and coffee, but no alcohol, definitely no drugs. And definitely no gambling also. No horse racing, no betting, or anything of that sort. No casinos for sure, nothing. So clean life as far as that goes. And married, getting the sons married and have daughters-in-law, all like that. So they would chant mantras, they're karma kandis, not devotees of course. And let's see what happened in their life. A few years ago, the father is very aged, so aged that he can't even lift his hands, but his memory is clear. He can think clear, he can talk clear, that's not a problem. So in his bedroom, he is lying on his bed, and he has this habit of all these years being very jovial. He would crack jokes very, very often, once too often. And so at this stage of his life, while he's there on his bed and his two very able sons, well-meaning sons, are near him in the same house. He is in the bedroom, they are in the hall, just across. And beside him there is a table, and on that there is a bottle of water and a glass. So, as usual, the father is jovial, he's cracking jokes, and suddenly he's feeling a lot of thirst. So for some time he tolerates, then he calls out for his sons who are just across there in earshot and says, "Dear sons, I'm thirsty, please give me water. It's right here on the table, please give, I can't reach." But the sons, because of his jovial nature, think he is cracking a joke. They take him very lightly. They don't take him seriously. So some time passes and the father is still lying on the bed. He's thirsting. And again he asks, repeatedly he asks, "Dear sons, please give me water." And still, both the sons, they are busy in their own talk. They hear him, but they don't respond. Again, thinking that he's jesting, he's just cracking a joke, something. He's not serious. They don't take him seriously because of his past habit. So time passes. Finally, after some time, both the boys come inside and they say, father was asking for water, let us go, let us see if you were joking or not. They go inside, lo and behold, the father has passed away. Because of thirst. Unimaginable, huh? Man has worked very hard thinking that these fallible soldiers, my dear sons, well-bodied, healthy sons, just across the room, earshot, they are able to hear him, he can speak, they can hear. The bottle of water is right there, crystal clear water is right there beside him. He requesting them, he's done everything he could for this moment of life, that when he would need the help of his sons, that they would be there and they'd be able to help him. But look at Kala, look at time's arrangement, look at this man's karma, that because of his excessive laughter, excessive joking habit, his sons at that stage of his life don't take him seriously. And this is really a very pitiable situation, that somebody has to die of thirst, and that too in the presence of his own dear sons, with water right beside him. So this is time, this is the effect of time, this is the effect of karma. So we have to be very careful. So why are they fallible soldiers? Why does Prabhupada call them fallible soldiers? Again, the reason, 2nd chapter, 44th verse I just mentioned earlier. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to Supreme Lord Shri Krishna does not take place. So again, this family, you can see classic example, very attached to at least opulence. I need a good house, decent house, and I need all the comforts of life. We all do. Nothing wrong with that. But the problem was, what's the problem with that? Attached to it, and they got stuck up and they stopped at just that. They didn't look at anything further being bhakti or loving devotional service to Lord Shri Krishna. So what did they overlook? They overlooked the 4 biggest problems of life, which are Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, death, old age and disease. We'll focus on that again. Now, another perspective to why does Srila Prabhupada call them fallible soldiers? Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter 33rd verse. Mayaite nihitaha purvam eva nimittamatram bhava savyasachin. Shri Krishna is saying, they are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachin, can be but an instrument in the fight. So we know both the armies are standing across each other, facing each other, and Lord Shri Krishna is telling that all of these great generals, everybody here, including on your side and their side, Droṇācārya, Kripācārya, Bhīṣmadeva, Karṇa, all of them are dead already by my arrangement. You can choose to do your needful, either you do it or not, this is going to happen. Now you choose what you have to do. Either which way, this is going to happen. Now why am I mentioning this? In the case of Sri Arjuna, at least the point was that Sri Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you'll have to do the needful. I'm asking you, you can choose to do it or not. In our cases, even at the time of our very birth, our own bodies and the bodies of our near and dear ones, brothers, fathers, mothers, everyone is exactly the same case as was on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, that these bodies are going to be destroyed for sure, and the best part of it is we have to do nothing about it. We don't even have to be nimitta matram. It's done. It's guaranteed. So, later on, in the 18th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna is asking Arjuna, O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this attentively with your ears? With your ears? This is interesting, huh? And thank God I saw this, because I myself didn't know this. This was an eye-opener. Have you heard this attentively with your very close, better than heart? Mind. Lord Shri Krishna doesn't say ears. Have you heard this with your mind? And I said, so we have to hear with our mind. That's how important the function of the mind is. We have to not just hear with the ears, but we have to hear with the mind. And that is why Prabhupada time and again says, every word I have written is so important. And trust me, unless I had seen this for the preparation of this class, I myself wouldn't have. So this was a learning. And then Lord Shri Krishna asks, are your illusions and ignorance now dispelled? Why does Lord Shri Krishna ask that? He has already asked, have you heard this attentively with your mind? So if he has attentively heard this with his mind, then the assumption is that his illusion and ignorance must have been dispelled. So why is Lord Shri Krishna asking the second question, have your illusions and ignorance now been dispelled? Why? Because just as Srila Prabhupada time and again says, one not just needs to hear, but one needs to hear attentively. Thank you. And that is the 11th offense in chanting the holy name. To chant the holy names of the Lord inattentively. So Lord Shri Krishna is stressing on this point, hearing attentively with your mind. So if you have attentively heard with your mind, then the result will be that your illusions and ignorance will be dispelled. So, further about Asat Sainyeshu, Srila Prabhupada in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, fourth verse says, persons devoid of this knowledge of the soul do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. This is exactly what happened with the father and the two sons and the bottle of water. Right? And they are struggling for existence. Now, going further. Back to today's purport. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action. Thank you. And the grace of the Lord. So today the focus is going to be everyone has to protect himself by his action. The second part, the grace of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada says that don't try to see God Krishna. Act in such a way that Krishna will see you. So act means action. So the attempt is therefore to focus on the phrase, everyone has to protect himself by his action. One has to execute his duty faithfully, depending for the result on the Supreme Authority, Shri Krishna. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. One should therefore seek the protection of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, for the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. Now, when we talk about today's theme being everyone has to protect himself by his action, Prabhupada has a very interesting phrase which he mentions in a letter to his disciple. It's called flying an airplane. So let us look at interesting part of this. Prabhupada states, when flying an airplane, one cannot take care of other planes. Everyone has to take care of his own plane. And if there is any danger, no other plane can help another in that condition. Similarly, at the end of life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without help rendered by another. The help is, however, offered on the ground before flying in space. Similarly, the spiritual master, the father, the mother, the relatives, husband, and all others can render help during one's lifetime. But while crossing the sea, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions formally received. So how does one take care of himself? By utilizing the instructions formally received. So instructions are very important. So Prabhupada states this in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 15th chapter, 50th verse, purport. Now this is in connection with Mother Draupadi, Mother Subhadra and the 5 Pandavas. So there Srila Prabhupada states that Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Vasudeva Krishna, the personality of Godhead. She knew well about Vasudeva, Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husbands. What was this result? Draupadi and Mother Subhadra both went back to Godhead in their own bodies, just as their husbands did, without having to change their bodies. This is how powerful the instructions of a pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna are. So, Prabhupada states, because Draupadi was already trained, she at once took to concentration upon the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The wives also got the same result as their husbands in the same manner, that is to say, without changing their bodies, they reached the destination of Godhead. So, again, coming back to today's theme, everyone has to protect himself by his action. So, let us see how non-devotees do this. How do non-devotees prepare for death? Do they prepare for death? Think again. They do something. Yeah, are they afraid of death or not? Yes. So non-devotees do something to prepare for death. Devotees also do that. It's kind of common these days. What is it that they do? Wonderful. They take insurance. Okay, insurance which has no assurance. Now, why I just wanted to point out this. A couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, this came out in the papers that a very leading insurance provider in India, and when I say leading, they have huge capital reserves. Money is the last thing they need to think of. Just about every second person in India I know, when they think of insurance and when they get an insurance, they get it from this company. And yet, in a particular scheme of theirs, intended for senior citizens, that means those who have retired, those who are past 60 years, those who have invested the money. In that particular scheme, 4 years ago, all of them who had invested in that particular scheme, instead of gaining dividends or bonus or gaining on the capital that they had invested, which was promised to them, unimaginably, unthinkably, unheard of, each one of them lost 30% of their capital. How much? 30%, which is huge. 30 is very close to 50, huh? So 30% of their capital they lost instead of gaining. So in this world, karma is unpredictable. So minus Krishna consciousness, sans Krishna consciousness, anything can happen. And that is why Srila Prabhupada time and again says, Bhagavatam states, padam padam yad vipadam na tesham. So, another classic example, non-devotee. This guy, Mumbai, he, back in the late 70s, early 80s, started a tours and travels company. And this guy thought that how could I make a difference? There are many tours and travels. How could I earn money? How could I think different and make money? So what he did is, he focused on one particular community in India, the Jain community. So he said, and the Jain community, if you know, by and large in general, they have deep pockets. They have a lot of money. So he said, let me focus on them. And so he came up with attractive packages. A week in America, week in Europe. You know, families want to go out on vacation. So, but his USP was, unique selling point was, Jains have Jain food, which means no onion, garlic, and not even potatoes, I think. Anything grown under the ground, right? Yeah. So he said, I'll provide you Jain food also in America and Europe. Back in those days, it was unthinkable. Whenever they were going, food was a big issue. They would give them sandwiches, you know, with raw cabbage and all that. And Indians, even vegetarians, are not used to raw diet, salads and all that. We like cooked food, hot food, you know, fresh food. So he provided that, and it became a hit. Word spread that this guy is doing this, and everybody in those times said, you know, you want to go to Europe, you want to go to America, catch this guy. Fantastic. You know, no problem for food. You'll have the time of your life and come back. So this guy made a killing on that. Made a lot of money. Mumbai, plush area. He has a big bungalow. His whole family is living with him. And he is comfortably situated. Now, think of this. Non-devotee doesn't know what lies ahead of him. Doesn't know what karma is ahead of him. So he's thinking, now I've gone global, but what about local? You know, I'm in the city of Mumbai. There's people coming from across the world, from India, for sightseeing. So I never thought of catering to this crowd. So let me do that. Let me expand my business locally. Let me make even more money for my asat sainyeshu. Sons, grandsons, daughters-in-law, let me do that. Success tricked him. How it tricked him? Dangerously, we are going to see. So what he did is, he invested in 75 big buses. You know, you've seen these Volvo buses? Big buses, luxury coaches. He invested in 75 of them. And to do that, he didn't have that much money. So he took loans. Every bus cost 90 to 95 lakh rupees, nearly 1 crore of rupees, with road tax and insurance, all that, 1 crore of rupees per bus. So 75 buses cost him 75 crore rupees, which 10, 12, 15 years ago was big money. It's still big money, and especially if you've taken it on loan, it's really big money. What happened? This guy riding high on the success of global success of tours and travels, America, Europe, everywhere I've done well. Locally, there should be piece of cake. I should just fly. The business crashed. Because locally there was way more competition. The competition was of a very cutthroat kind than on a global level. Globally, what he was providing, nobody else was providing. But locally, everybody else was providing what he was providing. So his karma tricked him. He didn't think of these things that he thought earlier. And his business flopped. And the capital that he invested, he couldn't recover. Result being that the people who had loaned out the money to him started knocking on the door, and he started having sleepless nights. The result of that was, finally he could take it no more. He could take it no more. Did his sons, did his grandsons, or did his daughter-in-law, anybody help him? No, they were not in a position to help him. What happened? One evening, he calls his driver, calls for his car. He said, let's go for a drive. In Mumbai, there is a place called Marine Drive. You'll know. So it is a seafront, beachfront. So it's on an elevation, and just below is the sea with waves coming and dashing across the wall. So this guy goes, and it's about 2, 3, 4 kilometer stretch. So he goes, at the beginning of the Marine Drive, he asks the driver to stop the car. He says, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to walk till the end. You go, wait for me at the end. I'll come. So as the car goes, speeds past, when it is no longer to be seen, this guy is walking, tuck, 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 jumps across into the ocean and so this, he dies. So Titanic, in the case of Titanic, they died in icy cold waters in the middle of the ocean with, I heard, 700 kilometers of ocean in every direction. This guy jumped from the land into the ocean. He was on firm land, he had his house, everything, and he jumped into the ocean and killed himself. Similarly, a chain of coffee shops, you can go sit inside something like Starbucks, the equivalent of Starbucks in India. This guy started locally, but wanted to go global. So in his expansion spree, he started taking loans. Again, the thing didn't work. And this guy also, although he had high contacts, political contacts, his own father-in-law was the former chief minister of a state in India. And yet, when the people he had taken the money from started, he started getting death threats and whatnot, this guy did the same thing. Evening, took his car, flashy car, very expensive car, went to the seafront, and the same thing happened. So here's a very, very important instruction that Srila Prabhupada states in one of his letters. No loans and no credit cards. No loans and no credit cards. Please make this a rule. Thankfully, thanks to Krishna, I follow this. I have been able to follow this. So, in the case of devotees, again coming back to today's theme, everybody has to protect himself by his action. So, what spiritual Krishna conscious actions or duties do we perform every day to protect ourselves? What spiritual Krishna conscious activities or duties do we perform every day to protect ourselves? Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then chanting Hare Krishna, then Mangalarti, Seva, then read Prabhupada books, follow the regulative principles. Thank you. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions 3 things which a devotee had mentioned to me a decade ago. I just wanted to focus on them. 2 of them you know all of them, but still I just want to focus. One is, every day these 3 things must and should be done. Holy name, chanting. Dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee. And third is honoring Charnamrita. This third, honoring Charnamrita, by and large in general among his devotees, when they travel or they don't give a focus to, they don't give that kind of importance to in terms of thinking that I need to be always close to a temple so that I can access Charnamrita, unless one has deities at home and is doing Abhishekam, that's another thing. But Prabhupada states that even if one has deities at home, as long as one is near a temple, and one should try to stay near a temple for devotee association and all these things, the focus should always be on the deities on the temple, and the deities at home are a reflection, are what can you say? Yeah, a reflection of the deities in the temple. So, holy name we all chant, dust of the lotus feet of pure devotee. That means, the devotee explained to me, Guru Puja. In Guru Puja, when we sing, by singing and glorifying, we are actually getting, in one sense, the blessings or the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. Second, importance of offering flowers to Srila Prabhupada. When we offer flowers, that's also in one sense coming in touch with the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotee. Third, when we go visit Prabhupada in the Prabhupada Samadhi, here and in Sri Ram Vrindavan, you would have seen Prabhupada's lotus feet. So we always touch the lotus feet and there is always some dust there. So that is directly coming in touch with the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotee. So this is why Guru Puja is very important. So a case in point being that one time right here in Mayapur, Guru Puja was happening and Prabhupada noticed and he asked, where is my Sanskrit Pandit? It's not to be seen, where is he? So devotee beside him said, Prabhupada, he is doing Shaligram Puja. So Prabhupada, he got a little angry and said, first Guru Puja, then any other puja. First Guru Puja, then Shaligram Puja. So that instilled in me the importance of Guru Puja, and to confess, actually, many times I'm a couple of minutes late for start by the time the Guru Puja starts. So because today I had to speak to you, I made it a point to come on time for Guru Puja. I attended the whole thing. So that's why I'm able to speak. So I'm not just speaking, I follow also. And Guru Puja happens to be my favorite part of the morning program. So for a lot of devotees. So that, and the third thing is honoring Charanamrita. Very important. So this Kartik, I was in Sri Ram Vrindavan. So we are talking about how devotees protect themselves by their actions. So right now, just before this, in the case of non-devotees, we saw the example of this guy who had his whole family who took loan, and we saw these two cases, what happened. In the case of devotees, I was in Vrindavan, and I observed this father and two sons. And devotees, the father, I can make out, is so kind-hearted. He always has a slight smile on his face. His bag is full of books, small books, medium books, and whenever he comes across anybody, he's always trying to reach out with those books. And devotees, when they're standing in the line, he always goes through the entire line. He doesn't honor prasadam first. He goes through the entire line, has his hands up, and requests everyone to chant Hare Krishna. Now this is important. Why? Because in the prasadam mantra itself, it is said, Krishna prasad pao, Radha Krishna guna gao, preme dako Chaitanya nitai. So a lot of times devotees get involved in eating the prasadam rather than honoring the prasadam. So honoring the prasadam, one devotee mentioned to me, one way we could honor is, while honoring the prasadam, we could think of the deities to whom the food was offered and think of the glories, and if we are sitting beside a devotee or if we are sitting by ourselves, listen to a Prabhupada class or listen to a devotee's class on Bhagavatam. That is the way we can do Radha Krishna Gunagau. Now we can discuss that. So this father and two sons, the father is engaged like this. He also sponsors prasadam for a lot of devotees. So, and just beside the temple, they have a building of their own. So they are well off. They are well off. They have a building of their own. And both the sons are engaged right there in Krishna Balram Mandir in Vrindavan in serving the deities. I saw both the sons. One of the sons I could literally see the Brahma Tejas. He was shining. There was so much effulgence on his face, shining so brightly. So this was one case of a devotee family. Second devotee I'd like to mention, how this devotee protected himself by his action. This devotee in South India, very glorious example. He would every day go visit the nearest ISKCON temple, which was about 10, 12, 15 kilometers away. Okay. And to get there, he had to catch 2 buses. So he had to go from his home, catch a bus, go to the city center in one bus, go to a different platform, catch another bus, and from there, go to the nearest bus stop near the ISKCON temple. And from that bus stop, again, the temple was 1.5 kilometers walk. So every day, what he would do is, from his home to the bus stop, he would have kartals, and all the way to the bus stop, by himself, he would play the kartals and do kirtan all by himself, get onto the bus, reach the other destination, and from there 1.5 kilometers, again he would have the kartals and he would do Harinam and go. Every day he was doing this, months and years together. And every day he would return from the temple. When the temple closes at 1 o'clock, he would get the garland, some maha he'll get, and he'll again take the same path back, 2 buses, Harinam Kirtan, and reach back home, and then remove the garland and honor lunch prasadam and do his reading, hearing and all that, and like that. One day, similar thing happened, same thing happened. He went to a temple, Kirtan, Harinam, he got the Maha garland. He came back from the bus stop, did Kirtan, reached home. But that day something different happened. He sat down for lunch and his family said, "You're still wearing the garland, why don't you remove it?" He said, "No, not today. Today the garland will be on." So I said, "Okay, fine, no problem." So he honored prasadam, lunch prasadam with the garland on. He goes up, takes some rest, comes down, he does his reading, finishes his japa, then he does his hearing. Evening, again the family members say, "Are you're still wearing the garland? Let us also have it, why you're wearing the whole day?" He said, "No, not today, not today. Today it will be there." So finally at night he goes to sleep. Prabhupada is there, his deity pictures are there. And that night, guess what happens? He leaves the body. He leaves the body. So, why of all days that day he chose not to remove the garland? Some premonition, something was there. Krishna inside is telling, don't. So, why am I mentioning this? From the very first time I heard this, I've never heard another real life incident with a devotee like this. It stayed with me from then. And actually I'm so glad that I'm fortunate to be able to share this on this glorious Srimad Bhagavatam platform. This reaffirmed my faith so many times in the process of Krishna consciousness. I never forgot this. And it is he had 2 sons. And one of his sons is a full-time devotee. He's married. He's a full-time devotee. He has a shaligrama at home. He worships the shaligrama also. And it is his son who told me about this Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, which focuses on 3 things. Holy name, dust of the lotus feet, and Charnamrita. So like that. So in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 72nd verse, Lord Shri Krishna says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapa Vimuhyati Sthitvasyam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. Now, this shows the extreme mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. Lord Shri Krishna states, if one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So, Prabhupada states that one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. So again in chapter 8, Lord Shri Krishna says, whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So again, coming back to today's theme being, everyone has to protect himself by his action. Now it is said that Lord Shri Krishna is pleased when his devotees are pleased. Every day we sing in the morning. The spiritual master is pleased when he sees that the devotees are honoring Bhagavad Prasadam, Krishna Prasadam. In Srimad Bhagavatam also, Srila Prabhupada states that in this age, Lord Vishnu is more pleased not by offering foodstuffs into the sacrificial fire, but by offering the same foodstuffs, cooking them nicely, making them nice preparations, and offering it to Lord Krishna and then offering it to devotees. When devotees have it, Lord Vishnu is even more pleased. So keeping that in mind, today's theme being everyone has to protect himself by his action, I am going to prove by my action that I have to benefit myself and you. And for that, I have brought prasadam for all of you from Gadam Sweets. So please honor it and bless me and pray for me. So on that note, any questions, clarifications, corrections, please? Yes. No mic? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and his dedicated followers like you. Yes, Prabhu.
And as per the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is three types of action which is discussed. One is the vigatam, karma, and akarma.
Yes.
So here the akarma which is mentioned, akarma, the action which is for Krishna, for the pleasing of Lord.
Yes, very much, very much. Exactly the ones that we mentioned. All the devotional activities that we perform every day, that is precisely what is mentioned. And the three things that Chaitanya Charitamrita focuses, that is exactly what it. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Anything else, devotees? Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Prasadam is there, so please honor. So, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna